I bet you've never seen a transformation like this, an old boat brought back to life by a young man in Vietnam. Though the boat looks worn out, its basic structure remains intact. The bottom of the boat was heavily rusted and needed manual polishing. Uneven spots were smoothed out with putty. Then a fresh coat of paint was applied. The exterior of the speedboat was ready. Although the appearance was refreshed, the design still hinted at its age. The hull is just the shell but the engine is the core. To restore the boat, the young man ordered a full set of parts online. The red cable is the throttle gear wire. The others are the steering wheel and steering cable. The most important part is the Yamaha outboard engine. The engine model is 85 ET. It has a displacement of 1,140 cubic centimeters. Judging by its condition, it delivers substantial power. Since the boat is being refurbished, it's essential to breathe new life into it. A brand new engine is indispensable. The next step was to install the engine. The back of the boat already had pre-drilled mounting holes. The holes were standard. No modification was necessary. He cut two sections of old inner tubes, drilled small holes into rubber blocks, then mounted them onto the bolts. He attached the bolts to the rear of the boat. The rubber blocks prevent water leakage at the connection points. He used a wrench to tighten the nuts. No glue was required at all. The steering cable was threaded into the cabin. He then mounted the steering rod to the engine, screwed it in place. Using a linkage rod, connected the engine to the steering gear, securing the rod with screws at both ends. The rear section of the steering system was installed. Manual testing showed no issues. This is the steering mechanism. The mounting holes on the steering mechanism were slightly different. He installed an adapter plate on the steering mechanism. This was similar to the rudder mounting setup. The steering wheel's mounting hole was slightly small. He used a reamer to enlarge it, adjusting it to the appropriate size. Then inserted the steering cable into the steering mechanism, rotated the steering wheel to guide the cable. This allowed the steering mechanism to be mounted onto the console. He tightened the screws to secure it. Next attached the steering wheel and secured the nut. The entire steering system was now complete. There was slight resistance during operation, possibly because the telescopic rod wasn't lubricated. He then installed the outboard engine control box. The control box matched the engine. He needed to connect the control cables. He removed the screws under the control box, opened the lid. The cables controlled the engine. He attached them inside the control box. The two cables were for throttle and gear. He used clips to lock the pins in place. The installation process was straightforward. Afterward, replaced the cover and tightened the screws. Then mounted the control box to the right side. It was secured with 3 screws. The cables ran through conduits inside the cabin to the engine's position. He connected the power cables. The black one was the control box interface. This connector had 10 wires. One of the wires powered the engine's electric lift. He attached the control cables to the engine, secured them with pins. This enabled control of the engine. This mechanical system was more durable than electronic controls. Next, installed the gauges onto the dashboard. The young man showed his skills. The purchased parts fit perfectly. He connected the wires below the gauges, attached the fuel pump hose to the engine, then connected the fuel line to the tank. He manually pumped fuel using the hand primer, then started the engine. The ignition key was located on the control box. The design was very compact. It's a 3-cylinder engine. The idle vibration was relatively strong. After adjustments, it was ready for water testing. This engine had an electric lift function. Once started, the propeller lowered. What followed was the most exciting part. With the roar of the engine, this old boat surged through the water once again. Gliding on the countryside river was exhilarating. Follow my channel for more exciting content in the next episode.